We are underway at the first mountain bike race of the season, and there is only one way for Georgie Boy to start it, and that is with the whole shot. Absolutely full send from the gun, and it was super fast this start because it goes downhill here and then into like a right-hander, and you just had to slam on the brakes. And I decided later on in the race that there was a better line down there, but I decided just to go absolutely full send. As I do in cyclocross, I thought there's only one way to attack a mountain bike race. I didn't know how my legs were going to feel. I didn't know if my endurance was going to be there. Spoiler alert, it was not. But I just decided to attack it, take it up from the front. Also take my heart rate with a pinch of salt because it's off my Garmin watch and that is never accurate. But I've left it on there. It does get up to like 170 when it catches up. But this is the Gorrick Spring Classic #1 and I'm racing the expert category. I've got the lead at the moment. The field was only small for the expert category, probably like 8 of us, but some strong boys. And yeah, my plan of action was just to go, if I got the whole shot, press on and see who had the legs to go with it, because I sort of, in my head, I knew I was going to fade. So you can see the gap I had there. It was nothing really, like a few seconds I'd put in the first like minute or so of racing. And to be honest with you, I was thinking to myself, if I don't get a gap, I'm going to have to ease off the pace because your boy is burning matches left, right and centre. But I've got to admit, I absolutely love this course. It's super punchy and it's not overly technical. There's some descents and some twisty corners. It's really like corner, punchy climb, descent, punchy climb, and it just suits the way I like to race, like a punchy climb and then getting to recover doing 0 watts on the descent. And actually after this race and watching back this race, I've started to think, I always used to think I was a better cyclocross racer than I am a mountain biker. But I don't think that's the case anymore. Like for the first outing of the season, knowing my endurance isn't there at the moment, to be off the front straight away, pressing on against some strong riders, I'm starting to think that I'm actually more suited for mountain bike. I took that corner back there horribly. I didn't want to get my new bike dirty, I'm not going to lie, but you'll be pleased to know the new bike's got a power meter, so that is absolutely wicked. You can see what power I put out. I only averaged like 215 watts in this whole race, and I absolutely blew my biscuit in the last 30-40 minutes. But you can see the course was in pretty good nick. There was a few muddy sections, but apart from that it was flowing super fast. I'm trying to see if you can see on the left, that's the riders chasing me down in 2nd, 3rd and 4th. So I did have a little bit of a gap. The problem was I was giving it absolutely everything, and you know when you can see that gap's not growing enough to warrant the effort you're putting out. But I do, being the numpty I am, I do decide to just keep pressing on with absolutely everything I've got. And we'll come into the first descent in a minute, and although I said this course isn't technical, I think the reason why I still lost this race was for 2 reasons. Spoiler alert, I didn't win if you watched the last one. And the 2 reasons probably were, I didn't have the endurance towards the end of the race, which I knew because I've been racing cyclocross. And secondly, I was letting gaps open up on the descent, and they weren't big gaps, but you'll see in a minute, every time that wheel goes a little bit and you have to sprint or punch to try and shut down a gap, it's matches burnt that the rider in front of you isn't having to burn because they're just letting it flow nice and easy. I can tell you now my heart rate was not at 147, but yeah, look, it's nice and twisty and I was going deep right now. I reckon my heart rate was maxed out at this point. But I've jumped forward to the bottom of the descent and you can see on the left, that is the chasers there. So it was Paddy chasing me down. And as I said in my last video, he is an elite mountain biker that has raced the last 2 world champs for GB in the marathon. So I knew, like, endurance wise, he was going to be on it and not going to slow down. Whereas me, I'm all or nothing, no endurance. But you can see every time I was just getting to the climbs, I was punching it as hard as I could, to try and gap him, but you'll see in a second the gap I did have, it wasn't huge. So there's the 3 riders behind me. This was now lap 2, I think, and the gap just wasn't growing. And I'll tell you what was happening. My legs were Shell City. Oh no, we are still on lap 1, sorry. We're still on lap 1, but yeah, that gap was just not growing at all. And look, this is what I love about this course. You get the respite on these descents, and the climbs are like the perfect length for me. You just got to absolutely rip it, suffer for like 30 to 60 seconds of pain. Someone asked me for like a tip for racing mountain bike, and my 2 tips are probably make sure you've got the endurance and fueling right, and lastly, just absolutely rip it and have fun. You've got to go out there, go full gas, give it the berries and suffer. That is what it's about. But look at these climbs, that's why I love them. 30 seconds of pain and then you know it's going to be over. Everyone has got 30 seconds in the tank, I am told. But then you get that little bit of respite on the descent, and then you've got to go again and again and again. And that is what I love about this course. If you ever get a chance, there's another 2 rounds at this venue, and they always put on a wicked course, so get down there, get involved. I've signed up for both of them as well. So providing I'm fit and healthy, I will be there. But you'll see in a minute as we come down at the bottom of lap 1, you'll see the gap I had. So we're coming, this is pretty much the last descent before we go through a little twisty section into the finishing straight. And you'll see the gap I had over Paddy. So that's me coming through 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 seconds at a push. They were very fast. But I've jumped on now 2 laps in, and this is when Paddy makes his move and he starts ripping my legs off. And I'm going to play the little clip of when I go past the wife now so you can hear her impression.
Go on, George, come on.
Oh, she was like, oh, that wasn't very good. But Paddy comes to the front and starts sticking the hurt on now, and I was already in a box from the first couple of laps. Apologies about the mud, I am going to skip it on a bit, but when he came past me and attacked, I did not have time to wipe the camera. It was a bloody white knuckle ride, I can tell you that. I was gripping on and I was thinking, if he doesn't ease off the gas, I am going to be signed, sealed, delivered, dispatched. But I managed to dig in, and I'll skip this next bit because the camera does get seriously muddy. So we're back at the top of the climb, and I managed to just cling in with absolutely everything I had. But you know when you're going through, so we're 42 minutes in now, and I'm thinking to myself, he can maintain this pace for probably the rest of the race. I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. And every time he accelerated or I made a little mistake, the elastic was just stretching. And this is what I mean, there's only so many times. So look, you'll see here, he gets out the saddle, rips it out that corner, and we're just absolutely motoring around these corners. And he is super, super good on the descents. And you'll see in a minute, you've only got to lose like a couple of bike lengths, and then you've got to sprint out the corner to shut that down. And in hindsight, watching this footage back now, in the moment I probably didn't have the fitness or power, but I needed to get into the main descents before Paddy. 1, because then I could set the pace, and 2, if I did make a mistake or get gapped, I knew that I wouldn't have to sprint back on. Whereas when I was behind him, look, these gaps are opening on this descent. I know I've now got to burn a match to try and shut that down. It's always easy in hindsight saying, yeah, I should have got in the descent before him. But look, every time he accelerates, it's a match burnt. Whereas if you're on the front, I like to be able to get into my rhythm, set my pace, but I was just in such a hole. And this is the descent here. You'll see what he puts into me. Super smooth round these corners. It's a bit of a roller coaster ride watching this on the GoPro, I'm afraid. But look, it's only a few bike lengths, but it all adds up. When you come out of this bottom corner and you've got a sprint, look, 400 watts, 400 watt surge to get back on, and then another surge to close the gap down. And those surges just add up so quickly. So next time I race Paddy, if I get a chance to race him again, I'm going to have to get my elbows out and get in front of him on the descent. Hopefully he doesn't see this video. and he takes it a little bit easier on me next time. But look, the gap just opens, then it's a 400 watt surge to close it, same again. And every time I had to surge, just here I made a mistake. There, hit that root, got it wrong, another surge, look, 600 watts. And you can't afford to do that. Obviously in mountain biking there is a surge, but I just knew at this point, if I wanted to stay with Paddy and race for the win, I had to make 0 mistakes. And when you're on the limit, when you're redlining, your heart's jumping out your chest, that's when the mistakes start to come. And I could feel it. Look, 700 watts. He's a strong, strong boy, that's for sure. And this little noodle boy behind him was about to have a monumental blow up in a second. But every time down look how fast he is down that descent. Bosh. Gaps opened up. What have I got to do again? Surge out of the corner. It's those minute little things that I've noticed that is the difference between expert and elite. Little descending speed, just the endurance they've got, and it all adds up over the race. So little things I need to work on. Still got to improve that descending, but just here is when I was clinging on for dear life. Every time out of these corners he was accelerating. He was going again, he was going again, and I felt like shouting, come on Paddy, take it easy on me, don't ruin the video, let's keep this together. But I thought he ain't gonna listen. Look, every time he was just absolutely ripping my legs off, and I was in a world of hurt right now. And honestly, once he did dispatch me, I had to pop a gel and it saved my life. Look, 600 watts up there and then straight into this descent. And this is what Paddy was saying, I need to get better at descending when my heart rate's high, because that was when he was putting the biggest gap into me during the race. And look at this gap he's put in here, and look at the effort yet again I've had to put in to shut it down. So he's out the saddle, 600 watts just to close that down. And he has used 0 energy on that descent because he's just let it flow. And he's absolutely ripping my legs to shreds up this climb. And it is all down to that descent. I've said it a million times, it's free speed. Georgie boy needs to get out and practice the descents. Next time I'm going to be flying, but I need some good weather before I get my bike muddy again, unfortunately. But it was just here, Del boy was like, you've got to go with it, you've got to suffer. And it was when I knew it was going to be game over in a second for me, unfortunately. You know when you're starting to get little twinges of cramp and you're thinking to yourself, you've got to ease off the gas. And I'd started making horrible mistakes. Look at this. I'm like through the shrubbery there because I missed the corner. Absolute chopper, Georgie boy. And this is where it all fell to bits. I do manage to shut the gap down to Paddy in a second. You can see it's only a tiny amount, but we're getting to that hour point, and once I go past the cross hour point, it's Red Rover. Absolutely Red Rover. Out of this corner, I go full rip to shut it down. So look, another 600, 700, nearly 800 watts there, and maintaining it to close this gap down and get on his wheel. So the good thing is, the legs are close to being the best they've ever been, which is promising. If we can tidy up the descending, get the endurance on point, I think I'll be there or thereabouts for a top summer. But this is where it all went wrong. I said to myself, you can't make a mistake now. I come into one of these corners, there was a big root. I hit the root, got it horribly wrong, almost went into the tree, then almost hit this next tree. I lost the bar end on my bike at that point, devastated. But that was it. Once that gap had opened, I think he knew as well that I'd made a mistake because he heard my foot unclip. I imagine he did anyway, and he just pressed on. And that was it. It was dispatched. I could not for the life of me shut it down. And once that gap goes as well, your head sort of goes a bit. I know I always say don't give up, but when you're on the limit and you know the gap's gone and you can't close it down and he's just pulling away, you'll see what the gap is at the bottom of the descent. It was probably like 10 seconds, and you can see that every corner he's just putting another second into you, another second, and I honestly just had to ease off the gas or I was gonna have the most monumental blow up. So from this point on, it was a bit of a boring race. Paddy ripped my legs off, fair play to him, he took first place. I went into pure survival mode for the next 40 minutes, an hour and 40 of racing, but I managed to hold on to second place and I was about 1 minute 30 something down on Paddy. So super result, I'm super happy, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another crack.